Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. I have made a project in Unreal Engine on the same screen multiplayer concept. This is basically you control two characters without splitting your game screen, but just because you cannot split your screen for both of the characters, one controlled by the keyboard mouse and one controlled by the gamepad, you will have to define some rules like how far away they can move and how the camera will work, how it will move around and all that. That was very interesting to figure out, so I thought, why not? Let's give it a try. And at the end of this video, I will be giving this project away for free to download. You guys can use it to make your own game or use it for educational purposes. Now, without wasting time, let's dive into the video. Okay, so right now I'm controlling my player 1 with the keyboard and mouse controller, and player 2 I will control with my gamepad. I'm using an Xbox controller for that. You can see some blue numbers printing on the viewport. That is actually the distance between both of the characters squared. The red arrow that you see on his head, the character's head, is basically showing the direction in which I am trying to move in. Like, suppose I am moving the joystick on my controller, so the arrow will point in the direction in which the joystick is moving. Basically it will replicate its direction in the game's 3D space. I implemented that for mainly like debugging purposes, because like when we had to set up the thing that the players cannot move too far away from each other, I had to use it to know which direction is like it trying to move in right now. So suppose if one of the players move too far away from the other character, I will I will prevent him from moving any further in any direction. And that's the problem right there. I cannot determine if the character cannot move, how will he get back and reduce that distance between him and the other player, because going too far away will like make the camera go goofy in some scenes. It can happen. So instead of determining the direction the character is moving in, I will determine the direction the controller is trying to move in. Like from the inputs, I will try to recognize what direction is it trying to move in. Because let's say if I have prevented this character from moving any further, it cannot move back as well. So I will need the direction controller is pointing in to see if it is trying to come back, then I will allow him to move. But if it is like moving further away, I will prevent him again. I will keep preventing him from moving. I'll block his movement. I think you get the idea. And after that, I have made this little lever, that is the plain cylinder that you see on your screen. When I press spacebar, it like recognizes which of these characters is trying to pull the lever, because I have a trigger box right there. So player enters that and it knows what player is in the trigger box. And then to actually recognize what player is trying to move the lever, I have implemented a different way than most people do. So the different approach that I'm using is actually quite interesting, because it's for a multiplayer game. When the character like walks into the trigger box, the character has a variable called overlapped actor. Right, it is an object reference. So whenever the player walks into that trigger box, the trigger box of the lever sets overlapping actor of the third person character. It actually gives it the self-reference that yes, I am the one that is being overlapped by the character. So now both of the characters have the lever's reference, and they can individually trigger its events. We have to run long chain of like Boolean branch checks for that, but at the time of the development, that was the most ideal way I found. Yeah, well, now coming on to the camera part, I will actually explain how it is working for preventing player from moving out of bounds. We know that in same screen multiplayer games, the camera cannot move, cannot cover a very large area, very large portion of the game. It's not ideal to show anything. So what I'm doing is I am first of all getting the distance between both of the characters and printing it on the screen. I did that in the first place to identify the right distance that could be used as a bounce between both the players, so they'll have a circular boundary that they cannot go out of. So for that, what I did is I'm getting the distance squared. So after getting the distance squared between both of the characters, I am running a branch check at event click of the camera pawn. The camera pawn is basically the pawn that spawns both of these characters and keep track of them, who enforces the boundaries and rules of the game, rules of the how they can be controlled. And so after checking if they are at the end of their boundaries, and that's exactly the part where we prevent them from moving any further. And since we cannot determine the direction the player is trying to move in, we'll have to get the controller's input and then convert it to 3D space. And after converting that into 3D space, the arrows that you see on the head, above the head of the characters, that displays it into the 3D space, like which direction is the controller trying to move in. So I made it for debugging purposes, and I just get what direction is the arrow pointing in, and if it is away from the camera pawns, like I have a scene component that moves with both of them and stays just in between them. That scene component is the exact thing that holds the spring arm, which then holds the camera. So I'll try to show you the spring arm. You can see that it's exactly in the middle of both of the characters. Yep. And it has a function attached to event click that helps it move every frame and catch up with the middle point, like the middle point between the distance. Yep. So now we'll be wrapping up this video. Thanks for watching.